Hi everyone, it's Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we are going to be using these Nuvo Shimmer powders, and I picked two of these colours up in a recent haul video, and we're going to be using this to create a really lovely rainbow background with a little bit of heat embossing. So I'm pulling out a stamp that I haven't used in a really long time. This is the Simon Says Stamp Botanical Heart stamp, lovely big floral in the shape of a heart. So I've taken some Creative Expressions watercolour cardstock here because we're going to be using a lot of water, so you need a cardstock that is going to be able to handle that. And I'm going to pop this into my stamping platform. I'm going to use my EK powder tool here just to stop the embossing powder sticking anywhere I don't want it. And I'm using then my Versamark sticky ink. I am going to be using black embossing powder, but I really wanted the embossing powder to stick everywhere, so I decided to do it with a clear ink because this is a nice and juicy pad, and then use black embossing powder rather than black ink with a clear embossing powder. You can do it either way. So I do stamp this a couple of times because it is a textured watercolour paper, and I wanted to make sure that I cover the whole stamp, make sure I get a really great impression. And then I'm going to pour over, this is the Papermania black embossing powder, and I'm just going to pour it on, knock off the excess, and we can put that back into our pot. So I do think that my cardstock might have moved ever so slightly, so my lines are quite thick, but I do think this is a really beautiful image. You've got lots of different bits in there where the colours can kind of sit and mix a little bit and yeah, give us a really lovely background. So I'm just melting this with my heat tool. You can move it back and forth in the light to make sure that you have melted it all. If it's still dull and grainy, then it isn't melted 100%, but if it's nice and shiny and smooth looking, then it is, and you can go ahead and start on your next bit. So I'm going to be putting this into my splat box. The three colours I've got is a Catherine Wheel, Solar Flare and Blue Blitz. And I'm just tapping the end of this bottle. I'm not squeezing it, and I'm just putting it all over, and then I'm going to spritz it. Now, what I would recommend is not what I did here. I end up doing 3 layers on here. When I've done this previously, not in a video, but just for me to have a go and have a little bit of a practice, I absolutely left this. I didn't use my heat tool, nothing. I just let it sit, and it was really beautiful. If you have got the time to do that and just let it sit and dry on its own, you are going to get a much better result. So I kept going in different areas. I wanted to try and get all the colours of the rainbow. These are of course 3 primary colours, so you'll get a really great rainbow effect on here. I'm just mopping up some of those areas where you got a lot of that water. I wanted to try and see if there was any areas where I wanted to add any more of this shimmer powder just to get a nice array. Looking at this now, I really should have left it like this and just let it dry naturally, but yeah, I was a little bit impatient, wanting to, you know, get this finished and cut out and dry and everything for the video. But yeah, I would definitely, if you've got the time to leave it 100%, I would recommend doing that. Amy Art has done a lot of videos using this combination, whether it is exactly these 3 colours, I think it is, but she's got some really great videos where she's created lovely rainbow backgrounds, and I'm pretty sure in her videos she does say to leave it and dry naturally. What you want to be careful with this in particular, because I've embossed those lines, you want to be careful that doesn't melt any further, doesn't burn by adding additional heat to it sort of after it has sort of melted. So definitely keep your heat tool moving if you are going to do that. You can also tape this down to stop it from warping. So you can see I'm just using my pick tool here just to stop the cardstock from curving over. That's another great way, because I find then that the liquid is obviously going to move. If it's arched and higher in the middle, it's all going to run to the edges. So I find just holding it down a little bit does definitely help. So I do really love how this came out. Like I said, I know I should have left it, but I do still really like how it looks and kind of built up a little bit. There was 1 or 2 areas where maybe it had sort of seeped in to the embossing powder, again, where I had heated this up. But yeah, just using a paper towel just to pick up some of those areas where the ink is when I turned it over like that and kind of pressed it down, you could see, if you just sort of rewind a little bit, that it did take a lot of that colour. So a couple of those flowers are a lot lighter. You've got other areas that are darker. But yeah, I would definitely recommend having a go and leaving it, because you'll get the most beautiful results. So I've set that to one side just to continue drying, just while I work on my background. I'm going to use an embossing folder. I've got some Creative Expressions coconut white cardstock here that I'm going to cut down to be 4.5 by 6.5. I'll make it a 5x7 card. And we're going to be using the Textures Paris Romance Quintessential Quilting embossing folder, a little bit of a mouthful. That's by Lou Collins from Craft Stash. I'll leave some links in the description box down below for you. So we're going to be using that embossing folder and doing some splatters with some distress inks. So for the distress inks, we have got the Wilted Violet, Candied Apple, Mustard Seed, Twisted Citron and Mermaid Lagoon. So I was thinking about doing a background first and then embossing, but I decided just to do the splatters afterwards with those colours. So I really love this embossing folder. I think it's 5x7 in size. It's really great for a subtle background, certainly with this white cardstock. I think it works really nice. So I'm actually using one of my plates for my Gemini die cutting machine as a little palette here to do a little bit of splatter here. So I've got one of these paintbrushes where you've got a barrel for the water, and I've already added some water to that ink, and I'm just going to be flicking. There's lots of different ways that you can add splatter. This is just an easy way of doing it, and I'm just literally going through those colours. I'm not even cleaning off my brush. So I started with the yellow, green, blue, purple, red, and then just splattered that all over this background. So again, it's going to be quite a subtle background, but you've got the lovely splatters, you've got that quilted background, and then it just helps to have the main focus be the lovely floral heart that we've got. So I just cleaned off that. Make sure it's nice and clean before using it again for any die cutting. I'm going to create myself a matte inlayer. Again, going with that kind of rainbow theme. This is the Hollow Wave mirror cardstock from Tonic Studios. So I'm cutting this down to 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then I'm going to glue this onto my card base. Like I said, my card base is a 5x7. This floral stamp is quite big. It's roughly about 5.5 inches by about 4 3/4 inch. I'm not sure if it's still available on the Simon Says Stamp website. I did go through a little bit of a phase where I wanted to purchase all of their products, and I did do a couple of orders, but it was just so expensive to get it shipped to the UK, because the only place you can buy Simon Says Stamp products is from their own website. They do ship to the UK, but yeah, it's really expensive on the postage. So I've got quite a few items, but yeah, I've never ordered it from there again. But I will again leave a link in the description box down below. So I've popped that onto my card. I've used some double-sided tape to add my splattered panel onto that mirror card, just to make sure we get a good get it stuck down nice because of that mirror card. And then we can pull back our lovely botanical heart here. You can see how that's dried back, and it does look really nice. Again, you've got all of those colors, and you know, if you're looking at dabbling into the like shimmer powders, you know, having those particular 3 colors is going to work really well, because you can create rainbow backgrounds like this. You can you know, make your greens with it, you can make your purples with it, if you know that's the only color you want to have. And then if you do like them and want to expand, they of course do have other colors as well, but this is a really great base to kind of start with. So I'm just trimming around this very simply, just to give it a little bit of a border. It's not going to have a white border, of course, because we've done that use those powders, and of course it's gone outside of our image. But what's really great about that is if you're not 100% confident with fussy cutting, this is really forgiving, and it does give that nice heart shape as well, so you can kind of see it a lot more. So I really love how this is looking, but I decided to have it coming off the edge slightly. So I am going to cut off that right hand side, and it took me a few goes. I didn't want to take too much off, so I did just a little bit of it at a time. You could, you know, measure this, or you could glue it down first and then cut it off. I wanted it only to be up to the point of the white embossed piece. I didn't want it go any further, so I'm literally just doing like a 1/4 of an inch at a time, just to you know, find that kind of sweet spot of where I wanted it to be. And I really love how this looks again with that background. That quilted background is just so simple that it just adds a little bit of interest into your background, you know, without pulling any focus away. So I'm going to add some foam tape. This is the Time for Tea Designs foam tape. This is the 25mm wide tape. So I'm just going to cover the back of this, and I'm just trimming it down here just to get all of those areas with that foam tape so everything is nice and supported. We can take these panels off. The one thing I would say is you don't really get it too much on your fingers, but you know, especially if you're using kind of white cardstock, white card bases and things, you know, it might be worth just wiping over your hands if you are touching this kind of after the fact, just so you don't get any transfer from that shimmer powder onto your, you know, white items of the card. So now we can work on a sentiment. I really love how this is looking, and I thought I'd just pick a sentiment from the set itself. So you've got a few circles in here, and then you've got lots of really lovely dies. Thank you, lovely, love you, sorry, every day is a new start, and they're all kind of a good size to get into those circles. So I thought I would do that for this card. We're going to have just a note to say, and then we're going to pop that into one of the circles. So the cardstock I've picked here, it was just a scrap. I'm pretty sure this is the marigold yellow, and we're going to stamp the circle first of all in the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and that stamped really well first time, and then we are going to stamp the sentiment inside this as well with that same ink. I'm also then going to die cut this with a stitched circle die. This is from Hefty Doodle, and this is the perfect size. You don't see too much of that stitched detail because it does end up being on the outer circle, but again, just a really you know, simple thing to get this cut out. These kind of nesting dies, whatever shapes they are perfect for you know, mat and layering. They're perfect for cutting out your sentiments as well, so that really was kind of the perfect size. I'm going to add a piece of foam tape onto the back of this as well, and then I'm going to add some glue where it's going to overlap onto that heart. And for that, I'm just going to use my Nuvo Deluxe glue. This is by far the best glue that I have found to use. And again, leave some links to a few different places you can purchase down below. So I'm just going to add that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add some Nuvo drops. So I didn't necessarily need to add any more colour to this. So I went with the Ebony Black, just a few dots around. And I tried to vary the sizes then as well. So that is going to be our card finished for today's video. So again, maybe not a stamp set that you're going to have, but definitely with these shimmer powders is sort of the technique that I wanted to show you today. And I really love how this turned out. Again, if you want to kind of dabble into it, these three colours are the perfect way to go. If you like this card, please give this video a thumbs up. It does help to support my channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.